And we are back.
We're back.
Episode 1 of Ruminations and Revelations, which is technically episode 16 of the side piece, but that's been laid to rest.
Loved you, side piece.
We decided that we wanted to evolve what we've been doing on our Friday releases from a joke that was just, random conversations into something a little more serious. And the conversations that we have sometimes do get serious and last hours instead of one.
Yes.
And the side piece was supposed to be 45 minutes or less.
And they were not.
No, they weren't. They were usually right around an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then last episode, which was 15, which was traditional values, was 3 hours. And that was part 1. We have to record a part 2 of that eventually because we were all over the place. Yeah. Yep. So today, episode 1 of Ruminations and Revelations, we are going to be having a discussion about the difference between hobbies, which are healthy, and escapisms, which is not.
Correct.
Do you have anything that you want to get into that's not that conversation first, like we normally do, or do you want to just jump into it?
We did the first woman's call today.
How'd that go?
It went really well. They felt like everyone took something from it, which I'm pretty stoked about.
The entire time that you did that, I was looking at cabins. Literally the entire hour call or 45 minutes or whatever it was, I was on VRBO looking at cabins in Blue Ridge and like near Charleston, where my family's at in Tennessee. So that next time we go up there, we can stay in an actual house or a cabin versus staying in a hotel room, because even though we stay at Marriott's, which have the town suites or whatever you want to call it, that have the kitchens in them, they're never proper. And it's normally 130 to 140 a night. Yeah,
and bathtubs are not nice.
No, they're not. So I think from now on when we go up there, even though I'm not going to get points for it, which means I won't get free stays at Marriott's from that anymore, I would rather spend the extra 30 or 40 bucks a night and get a full house. Found someone had swimming pools in them, which I thought was kind of cool. Not that I swim, but
I like swimming.
Yep.
I'll swim by myself. Put on a little show for you.
Oh, yeah?
I can't do water aerobics, though. I'll look like a flailing fish or the Kraken.
A Kraken, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've discussed that.
I feel like I'm really embracing it.
Yeah.
Like, I realized while I was out there taking photos of the cattails and the flowers, like, I'm dressed in this and I was wearing my pink house slippers, just walking down the road. Yeah. Smoking from my vape pen.
Florida woman, ladies and gentlemen.
And I was like, I've had like 8 cars drive past me. I wonder what they're speculating about me, And then I made a TikTok and I was like, I bet they think I'm a hot mess. And I was like, no, I get it. I look like Florida woman out here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're going to hit 85,000 tonight on the live stream.
That's insane to think about. Didn't we just hit 80,000?
Yeah, like a night ago or 2 nights ago. It's growing. It's really growing.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Yeah. I really want to have a conversation during the live stream tonight about a lot of things. I don't want to, because this is all so far out. That conversations that we have, by the time this hits,
we could be at 100,000.
Right. Right. By the time this hits, we could be at 100,000. If it continues going the way that it is, we will be. We will be.
That's crazy.
If we hit 85,000 today, we'll be at 100,000 within the next 17 to 18 days if we continue the current trajectory of what we're doing. So, and I have decisions to make because I really think being in the creator beta program on TikTok is slowing our YouTube growth.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough people. Like, there's still people seeing the content, but not what could be seeing the content. So, like, I have to factor in the financial aspects because I'm making good money in the beta program. And if I leave that, that's a huge dip in revenue, and I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, when you think about it, I've gone up almost 150,000 followers in a week.
Right. But we have to see how that translates into YouTube growth.
Right. Well, my account is almost up to 1 million at this point. I'm like,
what are you at?
30,000 away from 700,000. So
you're going to pass me.
Well, what I think we should do is alternate who's in the beta program, because you can leave the program and then rejoin after a set amount of days.
Yeah. Or we both hit 1 million and then just stay in the program, because at that point, who gives a shit?
Okay.
The million's a number for me.
Well,
just to have an account that has one M next to it, like, that's
crazy.
Yeah, that's big ding-a-ling swinging.
Right. So if I were you, I wouldn't leave the beta program because the money that you make literally supplements something that we need in our life.
Yeah. And I'm not doing anything different. It's true passive income because I'd be doing the exact same thing whether I was in the program or not.
Right.
It makes sense.
And with us going into slow season with the shop.
Yeah. Yeah, that really makes sense.
I wouldn't leave the program,
I'm really looking forward to getting that wall finished out there. That should be done. That should be getting finished by the time this goes up. Like the weekend that this goes live, that wall should be getting finished.
It's going to look so dope.
It is, and it's going to change our house. Once that wall's finished and we get that room completely set up, I want to do like a real spring cleaning of the house.
Okay.
I may even go as far as to get a dumpster out here.
I would love that. Oh my gosh.
I would like to donate a lot of the shit to a no-kill shelter. I just don't have the time to load everything into the Jeep and take it to and from. It might be one of those things that we find somebody that comes and picks up because I know that there are no-kill shelters that do that. Or we find somebody.
What do you mean no-kill shelters? Truck. What are we giving to a no-kill shelter?
Anything that we don't want. So like those white chairs that we got that were way too small for this room that the kids stained, we could clean those and give those to a no-kill animal shelter. And then like once a month, those no-kill animal shelters do massive yard sales.
And way to make money.
The profits go to keeping animals alive and buying toys and bedding and yeah, I would rather do that than throw shit away because, we donate to, there's a couple pit bull rescues that I donate thousands of dollars to every year.
I love that. I didn't know no-kill rescues did that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of them locally. There's one in Inglewood. I think that there's one or two in Northport. Nicole is real avid on that. So it might be one of those things where we just rent like a U-Haul van, load the fucking van up, and then just take it to the no-kill shelter and drop everything off.
I support the idea heavily.
That would be easier than a dumpster and probably be cheaper too because we're not throwing anything out. We just take it all to the no-kill shelter. And it's not like we're throwing shit away. Like it's stuff that people can use. Those chairs are new.
Right.
The only thing that's ever sat in them is two toddlers. And they weigh less than 50 pounds. The chairs still have
the balance.
Cushion. Yeah. I don't know. I want to clean a lot of that shit out. I want to get a cage for all of our camera gear because the camera gear is starting to get out of control. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with that closet behind you. Every single shelf, that closet runs from wall to wall, right? It's huge. Filled. And every single space on the shelves that I can reach has boxes because I don't want to get rid of my camera boxes because you never know if I want to sell something and buy something new. It works. I found 2 more camera shops in Florida.
Okay.
That are within driving distance of us. I mean, it's a couple hours, but 2 of them, the other 2, because there's 3 that I know of now, both of them buy and sell. So if we ever decide we want to upgrade, instead of selling it online, I can go there first and have it priced and see if they'll give me more than what MBP or MPB or whatever it's called does. But eventually, that's the goal. I don't know. Kind of irrelevant to anything.
I did just remember something that I wanted to say.
Okay.
So it is not related to anything that we're talking about. It is about like hardcore DV situations that we cannot help with. I've been trying to look for avenues that we could send people to because I just want to say you're shit out of luck. I don't have an answer or we're not qualified to help you in this situation. So I've been on my Dr. Phil kick. And at the end of one of the episodes, Dr. Phil brought his wife on stage. Her name is Robin, and had her talking about this whole thing that she has going. And it's called When Georgia Smiles. And it is specifically designed to help women get out of DV situations. Women who have been stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home wives for 5 years, don't have jobs, don't have money. You need to go to that website. Everything is laid out. They also have an app that you can download that's called the Aspire News app. That way your abuser
won't think anything of it.
Right.
That's smart.
So in that app, you have pre-assigned phone numbers to send out a text message if needed, or it can send out a pre-recorded message, and it will also contact 911 for you. It will also start immediately recording the audio that's going on in the room, so you will have evidence of what is happening in that moment. And all of that is by like pushing a button or whatever it is. So we now have something to point women to when they say, I'm in this terrible situation. I need advice. Can you help me change him? No, we can't. But now we have an actual direction to point you to that can help you.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that one of our screeners has actually been sending like helpline numbers to people when they send those emails in because we don't read them.
Yeah.
But we need to have one of the screeners create a draft for that so that every time we get those, it can auto reply to them.
Yeah. The thing that I found so cool about that is that it helps women everywhere. It does not matter what state you're in. You can go to that website and they will find somebody to help you within your location. I don't know what prehistoric thing was just awakened in me, but watching you just drink water did it.
That's the thing, I guess.
I don't know. I picture Western. Like, I know we're in modern day 2023, but I just had a vision of you in like Viking times.
Drinking water?
Yeah. But dressed as a Viking.
That's funny.
Oh.
So, our conversation today is hobbies versus escapism.
Correct.
Can you read the definition of escapism so that everybody can understand what we're talking about? When we use that term, everyone that watches this can be on the same page.
Okay, so the definition of escapism, which I got from Google, which is saying is from Oxford Languages. The definition is the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. And I also found a little blurb that says, escapism comes from a need to avoid unpleasant feelings. Escapism can take many forms like procrastination, addiction, distraction, etc.
Okay. So now that everybody knows what that is, when we mention escapism, that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. This conversation came up because we've talked about video games hundreds of times at this point.
Right.
It's such a big deal for people who are in long-term relationships that seems to be the biggest gripe. Mm-hmm. Video games, going to the bar, going to the clubs, drinking, having guys' night, whatever. Right. People say when he's at home or she's at home, he or she, they are very unhappy. They're miserable. They're always scowling. They're snappy. But the moment they get out of the house and they're at work or they're with their friends, they're very happy. And it's like they're themselves again. Mm-hmm. If that's what you're viewing in your partner's fucking miserable at home. And there's a very strong possibility that you're the problem.
Yeah.
And it could be the way that you talk to each other. It could be that you guys are just burnt out being around each other. There could be negativity bias.
Lack of intimacy.
Could be a ton of things going on there. But if you see a noticeable change in who your partner is from being at home to being around other social circles, very strong possibility that you're the issue, or the two of you are having a huge meltdown and there's a lack of communication. So for men who come home after working a normal work week and play video games until they go to bed and then spend all day on the weekends playing video games, that is not a hobby.
That's escapism.
It's not decompression time. That is escapism. They are using that video game time to do something that they enjoy, to forget about the rest of their life. They are home, but they are not present because they are lost in video game.
It's the distraction.
Right. Same thing for men who drink or women who drink and go to clubs, and like you guys are not present in the moment. You are dedicating all of your free time to this thing that gets you out of the reality that you're currently in. And if you realize that that's what's happening in your life, that's a fucking problem. Mm-hmm. It's a problem for you, and it's a problem for the people that you're in a relationship with, and it's a real big problem for your kids. I believe that hobbies are super important to have in a relationship. Photography for us. Mm-hmm. Plants for you. Watching desk build out videos for me.
Yeah.
Our hobbies are very different. The photography one is one that we share together. Traveling is one we share together. Mm-hmm. We have hobbies that we love and we talk about and we do, but then we have our independent hobbies that gives us a fucking break from each other because sometimes you need that.
Right. And those are the hobbies where I have no idea what the fuck she's talking about, but I'm going to nod my head and smile because she's happy.
Every time. You're like the photosynthesis and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Every time I show you new growth on something.
Yep. Love that for you, babe.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I also have my knitting going on. Yeah. And now I'm looking into herbalism and making tinctures and...
You really got to talk to my sister about all that shit.
Well, I did. I texted her and she was like, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is super important to have your own hobbies. And I wanted to backtrack just a little bit. You were talking about how if your partner's home and they're constantly miserable and they're just gloomy cloud raining, and then they leave the house and they're a totally different person. Can't relate.
No, I can't either.
You are authentically you at home. And when we leave, it's a whole new side of you.
What do you mean?
So when we leave the house, you're on alert. You're more reserved. You're not as goofy because there are other variables in our life now.
Right, because it's my job to keep you and the kids safe.
Right. Even though
I am very reserved in public.
Right.
And I know I talk a lot on the podcast and I talk a lot to you. When we're in public, I don't talk like this.
Right. How strange would it be for you if that was me in our relationship? Like home, I'm just miserable, cloudy, unenjoyable to be around. Yet when I leave and I'm around other people, you see me having a good time and I'm all goofy making jokes and
because I know what to look for in all of this, and I understand what escapism is, I would know that you are miserable in our relationship or our marriage. I would know that I'm not holding up things on my end of the house, and I would really try to sit down and talk to you about it. And if you couldn't give me like, this is where I'm unhappy and these are the things that I need to see change to bring that happiness back into my life, we would be having very real conversations about how the future is going to look.
Okay, so if you started noticing that I was changing that way, because that's a very drastic change.
Right.
I am not the same person outside of this house or around other people than I am with you.
Right.
Even me on the podcast versus me with you in private, there's a differentiation. Difference.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. So you start noticing those little signs. Do you take it personally?
Again, because I know what I'm looking at and I understand what's happening, no. Because I would realize it's a me problem. Something is it could be a you problem. It could be the way you're perceiving situations. It could be that you're just not happy anymore. It could be that you fell out of love. It could be that you're overworked. It could be a you problem all the way down the line, but ultimately that's a me problem because I let it get this far without noticing that there's something going on.
So you're not just going to sweep it under the rug and go, she's being a bitch again today.
No. I would try to talk to you to figure out why we are at this point.
Okay.
Because I know that this is a problem. Like you enjoy video games. And we, at one point, I mean, we have 4 gaming computers in the house, an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5, and almost all of it's covered in dust.
Yes.
I can't remember. My PlayStation's not even hooked up. It's literally sitting on the floor in the living room.
In front of the entertainment center, yeah.
Right. Your Xbox is hooked up.
Yes, I have not turned that on in about 3 months.
Yeah. We don't, it's a matter of not having time.
No, there is time. I just prioritize things differently.
Yeah.
I prioritize my plant hobby and my knitting and my sitting outside and meditating and running around with the kids and having some intimate time with you. I have time. It's just video games aren't a priority to me and my well-being.
Right. So for me, like anytime that I would be sitting in front of a TV or a monitor playing a game, it's time that we're not on the couch talking.
Right.
We're not watching TV together in our downtime. I could be doing something with my downtime in those moments. I just don't see... it's just not the same thing. There's not a real quality time when those things are engaged. And if you wanted to play video games a few hours a week, it wouldn't faze me. I would, I edit. You would just have to give up something else to do it during those times. The problem with video games, though, and speaking just on video games, is that you can start playing a video game and before you know it, 4 hours has passed.
Right.
Like you look down, you're like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock. I've been playing video games since 9 a.m. What the fuck? And that happens. So, especially if you're really into a game or you're playing with your friends and you're having a good time, time flies when you're having fun,
Right.
But again, that also comes down to seeing the other side of things. So like if you started getting into video games and you were the same way with me as you are now, and you were just playing video games, I would recognize that as a hobby and not something that you're dedicating your life to for escapism. There is a difference. And if you were like, this is just how I unwind, noticing when I started to have a problem with it, if I started to have a problem with it, that is you choosing your hobby over your relationship.
Yeah. I would say a hobby turns into escapism when you start neglecting the things that need to get done in your life.
Right.
When you start using, well, it's my hobby and you've been playing for 9 hours straight and you haven't done the dishes and you haven't vacuumed and you haven't paid any attention to your husband or you haven't paid any attention to your wife, it's no longer a hobby.
Right.
When it starts to affect your life on a level that's starting to disorganize you and you're not able to keep up anymore and things are starting to fall solely on one person in the relationship, that's when it reaches that unhealthy level. And you have to take that step back and recognize that you are slacking and you are no longer being that responsible adult. I don't know where that thought was going.
So then for people who go hunting and fishing, hunting trips,
right?
We have friends that go for 2 or 3 days at a time that literally backpack in the middle of nowhere and come back carrying hundreds of pounds of food.
Right.
I view that as a hobby. If you're doing that every weekend, it's excessive. You're missing out on quality time with your wife and kids or your husband and kids if you're a woman hunter.
So I'm going to interject real quick. Do you have to go hunting every weekend? Because I feel like if you take down a 300-pound deer, you're kind of good on meat.
Well, it's not. So yes, it is. It's not that it's necessary to go every single weekend.
Right. So it can become a social time, which leads to escapism.
No, I think that that's a threefold thing. You are getting, it could be a social thing because you could be going with your brother, your cousin, your buddies, or whatever. You are bringing back food, and you are getting away.
Right.
It's a healthy hobby to have, especially when you work crazy hours. You come home and have to do a whole lot in the house, and like there's conflict all the time. People need that little bit of time away from their partners to just acclimate to life again and recharge their batteries. And for some people, being in the woods, it's a great way to recharge. I recharge being on a hiking trail. I fucking love hiking. But I wouldn't want to go camping and shit. Like that doesn't appeal to me. I slept outside enough in my life. I don't want to ever do that again. A glamp. Go get a van and sleep in a van and hike and come home, shower and get back in the van, sleep in air conditioning on a fucking bed. But no, like we have Death's Clan in Discord is an avid hunter.
Right.
And that's a hobby for him. Dude works around generators all day and like he comes home covered in grease and grime and like he's really leveling up in life. And one of the things that he really looks forward to is going hunting. And for him, that's not just time away from the family. It really is a way for him to decompress and get away from the world. Some people really fucking need that for their mental health. So if he took one weekend a month and went hunting for, Friday, Saturday and came home Sunday, or did, Friday through Monday or however his schedule works, that's still a hobby.
Right.
Because those 3 days would equal up to the rest of the month of small video game sessions or like a couple of drinks on the patio, or he's just mushing it all into one weekend.
Right.
That's healthy. And it would be healthy for his wife too, to use that time to go do woman stuff. Like if they can get a sitter where she can go and do a spa day or go get her hair and nails done or whatever it is that she enjoys doing. I have no idea. I don't think I've ever even had a conversation with her, but there's got to be something she enjoys doing. And that would be a good time for her to do that. If the kids can go to a grandparent's house overnight and he goes hunting and she can go spend a day doing whatever and playing video games or baking brownies or whatever it is that makes her happy, that's time to recharge. It gives you an opportunity to miss each other.
Right.
I think that there's a very clear difference between small hobbies and escapism. Even if I went and see it, like photography is my hobby. I've made money on it. It was a full-time job at one point. But if I wanted to go take pictures, and every single day I woke up the same time you wake up to take the kids to school, and you came home and I was gone, and I didn't come home until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I did that every single day, and I was just like, well, it's just my hobby. Bills are getting paid. What are you complaining about? It's just my hobby. I'm home at night. We're going to bed together. We're watching TV together. That's not a hobby at that point. You're using that to get away from your family and to get away from your house. And like, you're not trying to be present anymore. It's a good indication that your relationship is failing.
Right.
Awkward pause.
I'm hung up on something you said.
Okay.
It's unrelated to anything that we're talking about. You said that you said, I don't think I've even talked to his wife. So that that implies a possibility that you have spoken to his wife.
In Discord. I'm almost positive she's in Discord. I know that Tasha is Dakota's wife or woman or whatever she is. She's in Discord. But I talk to everybody in the ball pit.
Okay.
So, but I can't remember if she's actually in there or not. That's where I would have talked to her.
Okay. I was just looking for the clarification because you say things with purpose. So
yeah. I know that he's posted photos of her and he's talked about her a lot, and I'm pretty sure that she's been in live chats for YouTube. but I can't tell you who she is. I got to be honest, out of all the people that we are friends with that are part of all of that, the only names I recognize are the ones who are currently moderators and people that I know by their first name.
Yeah.
So I wish I could say that I knew everyone's name in Discord, but there's a lot of fucking people in there that
almost 800.
I have never even spoke to. And when I see people pop in like, hey guys, I'm new here, I always like will comment, welcome them. But
me too.
It's hard because that fucking chat moves so quick sometimes.
I don't have anything else to add to the conversation. I feel like you've hit everything.
Well, that was a short episode. Less than an hour.
How long has it been?
Probably less than 30 minutes. So then what, from your standpoint, what are some things that would be an indication that I'm starting to use my hobbies as escapisms? Because you said that I am a very different person at home than I am in public.
Right. If you start doing photography without me, that would be an indicator to me that there's something going on.
I gotta be honest, I think that would be a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I wanted to start going and taking pictures without you, that something's not right with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I enjoy that time more than I enjoy taking the pictures.
Right. That's the quality time for us.
Right.
So that would definitely be a big indicator for me. If you start staying up late and like watching videos on whatever you're interested in, I'm going to bed by myself.
Spoiler alert. I stay up way later than you watching videos in bed with you.
Yeah, I know.
As soon as you're like, okay, I'm rolling over, I'm like, phone. Every night.
Yeah.
I do. I stay up probably an hour and a half, 2 hours after you go to sleep. And sometimes it's playing that stupid game on my phone. Sometimes it's watching TV. I'm just not always ready to fall asleep when we go to bed. But my sleep patterns get weird.
Yeah.
Like there's nights where I'm ready for bed at like 7 o'clock at night and I could sleep until 7 or 8 the next day. And there's nights I'm not ready to sleep for 3 till 3. I'm not going to force myself to sleep if my body's not ready for it.
Yeah. I took that sleepy time tea last night. It's like chamomile and a couple of other things. And I like, it started hitting me. And I looked at you like, you want to go to bed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I slept really good last night. Like that tea knocked me out.
The tea.
The
Sure.
tea, it did.
Sure, it was the tea.
Part T. Part D.
That was good.
It's a blend. Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you.
That was good. So what else? What else would indicate that we are not okay and I'm starting to use escapism to supplement my life?
That you start leaving the house once a week regularly to go spend time with other people.
Meaning like lunches and shit?
No, like you're going out Friday nights for 6 hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that ain't gonna ever happen.
Like you leave at 5 o'clock and you're getting home at 11 o'clock. That's a very out of character thing for you. And that would make me kind of question, like, why do you feel the need to leave the house like that all of a sudden?
Do you think that there would be anything that would be personality trait wise that you would recognize before it got to all of that? Like we know. So this is full transparency. We are very honest when we have these conversations on these
Yes.
Side pieces. They're not side pieces anymore, but
Ruminations and Revelations.
Right. They are
R&R.
R&R. They are true conversations. And we don't, there are things that we'll cut out that are super inappropriate sexually because we make a lot of really raunchy jokes towards each other. But for the most part, we don't cut any real life shit. I know my mental health gets fucked up when I don't shower like daily.
Right.
And there are times where you'll say something to me, I'm like, I haven't showered in 3 days. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, I just realized it's been 3 days. I have to go take a shower. And it's one of those things that I have to force it. But I also rarely leave the house. Like we're at a point now where we are working podcast editing and doing shit so much so that I'm not getting dirty anymore.
Yeah.
So for me to wear basketball shorts with new shirts and new socks every day, like I'm not doing anything to get dirty. My house is at a cool 72 degrees every single day. I rarely get sweaty. I'm not even like I go check the mail and I take the trash out. That's the extent of my hard work at this point. So I don't feel like I'm really getting gross, but you know.
Right. So
knowing that that's an indicator for my mental health, there's got to be some sort of indicators that would tell you that I'm starting to get over my life.
So I don't want you to take this in any sort of negative way. Okay. I just want to preface with that because I don't know how this is going to sound. And
okay.
I really mean this like genuinely and lovingly. And I don't want it to be shitty. So if it comes across as shitty, it's really not my intention.
Okay.
So when it comes to your BPD, I really don't know how you're going to wake up in the morning sometimes. So it really is like a testing of the waters to see where you're at. And you could be having a bad day for 3 or 4 days. So after like that 3-day mark, when you're going through it, your whole demeanor changes. You don't make eye contact with me. You keep your head down. You're not like that same confident, like walking around the house, like you got this shit. Like you can tell you're going through it. There's less of that, like wanting to be engaged with the goofiness and the playfulness. You tolerate it. Like you're engaged with it because you know that I'm trying to like get you out of it.
Right.
But I can tell you really don't want to be a part of it. So when that goes on for more than 2 days, and I just kind of check in and I'm like, like I noticed that you haven't smacked my butt in 2 days, or like whatever playful thing that we haven't done hasn't happened. And I check in on, you've told me that when I do that, that kind of pulls you out of it a little bit.
Well, it makes me aware of how far things have gone. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I hate these borderline conversations so much.
I'm sorry.
It's not you. It's not you. Every time we have these conversations, more of me gets put onto the internet because I want people to see the reality of what it is to be with somebody like me. Mm-hmm. And it's not an excuse.
Right.
This is just who I am. And some days it sucks.
Yeah.
But like I have literally had dreams all night long this week where I have killed myself over and over and over in my sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, my head's in a fucking really dark place and I have to try to pull myself out of that because I'm trying to not focus on unaliving myself.
Right.
So that's a very nasty thing. And like, I will tell you, normally I'll be like, I'm fucking going through it today. That's just my code to let you know that I'm in it. Mm-hmm. That's one of those things that's not fair to you to have to deal with on a regular basis. And I understand that too, which is why I'm so quick to tell you that that's what's happening, because if you're not mentally capable of dealing with it that day, it gives you the option to leave. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to go get my mani-pedi done. I'm going to go to Target and Starbucks. Well, we're not doing that anymore. I'm going to go to Hobby Lobby and Starbucks or whatever it is that you're going to do. It gives you an option to take 4 or 5 hours away from the house while I pull myself up by the bootstraps, because it's very hard for me sometimes to check out of that emotional state. And I know that it's a choice, but because of my borderline, it's a lot harder than it would otherwise. So like I have to start finding distractions that gets me engaged to turn that shit off.
Right.
And once I can engage in something else and my brain starts focusing, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it just takes me getting enough caffeine in my system to get like, but I'm also not very super social the first hour that I'm awake. I have a real hard time engaging in like important conversations for at least 45 minutes after I get out of bed.
Yeah.
So it takes me a minute to get the wheel spinning.
So I'm going to add something onto that, and I'm going to draw back to my main point.
Okay.
So you were saying you give me that kind of code of I'm fucking going through it, and then I have the option to leave if I'm not capable of,
right.
And I did that the other day. I went and did my mani-pedi, and I came home, and I checked on you. I was like, how are you doing? I loved up on you, and I was like, do you feel any better? And you're like, no, not really. And I was like, okay, well, if you need anything, I'm here. And I went and sat outside and did plant shit for like another 4 hours.
Yep.
Because I was also going through it. And if I'm sitting there focusing on you going through it, I'm going to start feeling like I'm the cause of it.
Right.
Or you're thinking about leaving me, whatever I'm feeling. And then my anxiety is going to increase. You're going to feel that. And then we're going to start feeding off of each other. Right. So I would come in and I would check on you every once in a while. And I would do something cute and playful. And I really didn't talk much. Just because I don't want to say something to soothe myself while putting you in an uncomfortable position while you're going through it. I think that separation is super important.
Yeah, but again, it also comes down to hobbies.
Right.
If you didn't have your plant thing to do that day, and you didn't have any hobby of your own, even if you were to sit on the couch under the blanket, because you do that from time to time.
I do.
And knitted, I would feel like, why are you hiding from me? Like, why? Because that's how that feels. Like, I feel like that's an isolation chamber And when I see you doing that, I automatically think, okay, she's doing this because I did something wrong and she's reclusing.
To clarify what he's speaking on, I was also on the couch and I'll completely cover myself in a blanket. And it's never to avoid you. It's a autism thing.
Yeah.
It helps me feel the world is so big and there's so much space around me. And when I'm under that blanket, like I control that environment and it's a safe space for me to calm down.
Yeah. I used to sleep like that.
Yeah.
Completely under the blanket. Going underneath of the blanket completely now makes me panic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the temperature immediately goes up from my breath and like I can't breathe. Like I start to panic. It's weird. But I used to sleep completely under the blanket, head completely under the blanket. If my head was out, it was too bright. I couldn't sleep.
That's crazy.
Yep. I don't know. It just changed one day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So going back, the reason I brought up the BPD, I kind of know what to look for when you're being avoidant. So if I recognize that your avoidant behavior carried on longer than a week and there was no conversation of, I'm really struggling, this is what I'm going through, I would say when you're really on like a low, not like a low, but when you're going through it, that first day you tell me like, hey, I'm going through it. And you go through your day and we have conversations. By the second or third day, if you're still really going through it, you start to process out loud.
Yeah.
So it helps you process what you're going through. And it also kind of fills me on what you've been going through for the last 48 hours. If that were to not happen, I would also be concerned. Because you do make it a point to include me in your inner dialogue and make sure that I know what's going on. So if you were to one day to stop doing that or it becomes less frequent while still having that avoidant behavior, that would be a red flag to me.
That processing out loud shit's not something that I've ever really done.
Really?
I've always just held it in. I used to write. Anyways, I used to journal and I would write. And that was how I would get everything out. And like I have notes saved in my phone from like 5 years ago where I would type out poetry or whatever in my fucking, the iPhone notes thing that I keep all my notes in now. And I never deleted any of that shit. But that was how I would process shit because I have nobody to talk to unless I went to a therapist and I wasn't doing that anymore. And trying to explain my mental health to people who didn't understand or if their answer was you need to go to a therapist or you need to get on meds, I'm not talking to you anymore.
Right.
Because it's not what I fucking need. I need to process my shit, and I'm trying to talk to you to process my shit. And if you just don't want to hear that, tell me. I don't need meds, and I don't need therapy. I've had enough therapy, and I've tried a lot of fucking meds. And I've tried masking, I've tried self-medicating, I've done all that shit. The best thing that's worked for me is processing my emotions and going from emotional brain to logic brain thinking. Sometimes all that means to me is that I'm able to sit down and just word vomit everything that's going on in my head. And I don't really need feedback. In the event that I say some really stupid shit, I trust that you're going to go, hey, that's not very smart.
Right.
You don't need to self-destruct. That's self-destructive behavior. This is not really the right answer. Like, do you really think we can afford that? Whatever it is. But that process of getting it all out, it gets repetitive too. I full on Howard Hughes aviator that shit sometimes. Yeah. I'll say the same thing 15 times in a sentence and then stop and be like, I don't know, I can't. It's just nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like an OCD thing. I don't know if, I don't know. Only thing that I've ever been diagnosed with that's prevalent is borderline. There could be a whole lot of other things that are going on in my life now that I didn't know existed. And now that I know I could potentially have other things, I've wanted to get tested for it, but what is it going to do?
Right.
At this point, I'm 42 years old and I've lived my entire life. I'm successful as a motherfucker. I've got a dope marriage and I've done all of the work on me to process me to make sure that my life works. And if getting diagnosed with something new could give me a new potential tool that could make it faster, that would be dope. But what is the likelihood of that happening?
Right.
You know what I mean? So like just being able to word vomit to you to get everything out of my head does help me get past that. And I also think that that's helped me not get lost in hobbies because that escapism for me is a part of getting away from my real world. I mean, it's for everyone. We read the fucking definition,
right.
But a lot of that for me is more based around my mental health and lack of issues with people. My issues with people will escalate because if I got a problem with somebody, they're going to know it. I'm going to be a fucking asshole or I'm going to say some really mean shit and like it's going to create a whole lot of problems. So me asking you, if you would notice the change in me before I started using escapism was actually about my mental health.
Yeah.
Because my hobbies aren't going to consume me. It's just not who I am as a person. I've got too much going on to drop everything and just do one thing. Mm-hmm. It's not a luxury for me.
So do you think I did pretty okay answering that?
Yeah, I do. I think that a lot of that does come down to knowing that if it's been 3 or 4 days and I haven't started talking to you, there's really something going on.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about all that when I asked the question. I was more trying to think of like, so when I asked the question, it was more about depression and knowing like if I'm unhappy with something that I start to focus on something full, like obsessive, because I obsess over shit all the time. Like, how would you know? How would you know if I'm just obsessing versus escapism? Because I will, for example, I've spent the last 3 fucking weeks hard on desk builds and like computer builds and live streaming shit and like, but I've obsessed over multiple things during that time frame all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm playing Destiny 2 for fucking 16 hours a day with fucking Cheetos stuck to my face and empty bottles of soda all over the floor in front of me. You know what I mean? Like there's a very different...
So I would start really paying attention if it was your depression correlated to you getting with your hobbies, because you're correct. You do obsess over things. Like shiny. I
spent 7 hours a day looking at a car online.
Yes. So I wouldn't be able to tell just purely by you being engaged with something for an extended period of time. If you start talking about spending money super frivolously just to get that thing in your brain to tick, that's when I'm gonna start questioning, like, okay.
Have I done that? Have you seen that? Within the last like 7 months?
Within the last 7 months, no. I'm trying to think of a time where... So, right after your divorce, you were really going through it. And you were spending money.
Yeah.
And it was you were spending on unnecessary things. You never put yourself in a hole. Like, you never put yourself in a deficit. But I could recognize that you were spending and be like, ooh, I got this new shiny. And then a week later, you would spend another large quantity and be like, look at this new shiny. Yeah. So I would view that as I don't know if that's a form of escapism, but that's something that I would look towards. Like where you're ready to just blow money and you're like, we can make it work.
Yeah.
When there's not really that dialogue of, I can spend this now, we'll have this money then, and in 2 months this is happening. I would pay attention to that. Yeah,
that the buying shit, that actually everyone that I know that has borderline does that shit. They have that thing that they do to get new dopamine responses. Like we have a friend who buys arachnids, and we have another one that buys boots, and like they have their thing that they spend money on like crazy because they get that dopamine response every time they get it. New patron. We still haven't recorded that.
We haven't.
If we get done with enough time today, I would like to get that recorded so that we can splice it in. I'm not even going to plug it right now, but I would like to be able to do that.
Hey guys, if you're seeing this, Chris must have just shouted patron.
Patron!
And patron means that we just got somebody who just subscribed to our Patreon.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what that is, Patreon is a member-based subscription website that allows us to do early release, live streams, exclusive content, vlogs, and we have our own Discord server that is exclusive to our Patreon community.
That Discord is absolutely insane. It is an ever-growing community of like-minded people who you could say practice what we preach, have implemented the things that we have suggested, and it's working.
Would you go as far as to say that they're getting better?
I'd go as far as saying that they're definitely getting better. So if you have questions, you need unbiased opinions, you don't feel safe going to anybody in your present life, I would highly recommend checking out the Discord.
Yeah. Also, for those of you who don't want to support us financially, that's totally fine. The best thing that you can do in terms of helping us grow this channel is by sharing our content. The more people that see what we do, the more likely it is to get shared. The more people that are going to support what we are doing, the longer we are going to do this. Back to your regular scheduled program. There's got to be something that correlates a feel-good response by doing that. Mm-hmm. Because I do feel good when I spend money.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because I was poor my whole life and like didn't have shit that like now that I've got money and can do shit with it, like I don't have real true fuck you money, but I'm pretty close to it.
Right.
So like for me to be able to buy all the shit that we've bought, like granted the podcast is paying for itself now. Mm-hmm. It's starting to pay off all the debt that we've occurred while building the podcast.
Right.
Because we bought I'm of the mindset that if I'm going to buy something, I want to spend the money once and get the best I can get versus buying it a lot. And like we overdid it because we have 2 separate podcast rooms. And in this room, we have 2 places to record. Mm-hmm. So in this room alone, there's a mixer and 4 microphones. These mics by themselves are almost $500 a piece.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them in here. There's 2 more of them in the other podcast room with a mixer. Mm-hmm. The only thing I didn't buy more of is cameras because those cameras are fucking $3,800 a piece.
Right.
But I plan on it because I want to get everything set up and never have to take it off. That's a dedicated record spot. All I have to do is push a button and go because I'm more likely to do it than I am if I have to fucking move everything around. I don't want to do that. So we did spend a lot getting all of this going, and it's all of that debt is almost completely gone at this point. And now I'm looking at other things that I can do. Like, we're going to St. Augustine next weekend. I want to buy a couple more camera lenses. I started looking at filters, and I started going down that rabbit hole today while I was looking at that Mercedes I want. And was like, okay, we need filters. Mm-hmm. I want variable ND filters. I want the Polar Pro ones, the Peter McKinnon series, because they don't X. They're like high-end filters. Those filters are $250 a piece.
Wow.
And I have 2 cameras that are 67 millimeter filter threads. Mm-hmm. I was like, I just buy 2 of them, one for each camera, and then I just never take it off. That is illogical as a motherfucker. Nobody does that. You buy the filter that you need and you put it back in its case and you just take it with you and you put it on when you need it and take it off when you need it. Mm-hmm. I had all that shit in the cart. I was going to buy one for every camera lens we owned. And like I was messaging you back and forth. I was like, I don't want to spend this money. And like I basically told myself this is illogical, but I was wanting that dopamine response because I know we're going to St. Augustine.
Right.
I want to go out there and use the new toys and play with the new thing. And like all of that money that I would have spent on those filters today, it was like $1,200. Mm-hmm. That's antique store money that we could buy props for, or 2 t-shirt orders, or you know what I mean? Like there's things that money could go to that makes a lot more sense. But I would have gotten a hell of a dopamine response if I had gotten all those packages in this week and like set everything up and played with it. Mm-hmm. But I just bought that laptop, same thing. I can justify almost anything to myself.
Yes, you can.
As long as I know my bills are paid.
Yeah.
And like you're not going to have to worry about ever having your lights turned off and like our shit is taken care of. Mm-hmm. I justify it. I'm just going to make it again. It's money. I can always make more of it,
I'm going to be honest. I don't care how you spend money. As long as we have a roof over our heads, we have food to eat, nothing gets turned off. And when I ask for money, you don't tell me no. Right.
Well, that's never happened. None of that has ever happened. None of that will ever happen because I won't spend unless I know. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and even if I spend, like, if I've made big purchases, like, let's say I wanted to spend $6,000 on something, I would need a few thousand over top of that to feel good about spending that money, unless it was going on a credit card. Because going on a credit card, I'll just be able to pay it off in a month or two. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But if I'm going to spend cash, I need a few thousand over so that I'm not putting myself at zero. I don't know. Our life has shifted in weird ways, and that's kind of irrelevant. But the whole point of all of that is that I get a dopamine response when I buy shit. Mm-hmm. I feel good when I buy shit. And when I get new cars, I really feel good because I get to drive in something new and, showing it off is fun.
That would be another red flag to me.
What's that?
That you're getting a new car every 2 weeks or something. Or like you just get a car and 3 weeks go by and you're like, okay, I need another one. I'm thinking about trading this in.
I have done that since I've known you.
You have done that.
Do you remember the Toyota Highlander I had for less than a month?
I remember the Highlander. I remember the Hellcat.
Oh, yeah, the Hellcat.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. But fuck filling that thing up with gas. That car cost me $100 every time I pulled it out of the driveway. Mm-hmm. Was not worth it.
Yeah.
We'll never do that again. I don't want to own a V8 vehicle, period, after that. That thing got like 6 miles to the gallon.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But boy, did it fucking go.
We are massively side railed.
I don't care. We had the full conversation at this point. We can talk about whatever we want. We're just killing time now.
Well, I think we can go back to the conversation. So.
Fuck that conversation. I'm offended. I'm leaving.
Okay.
It'd take a whole lot of energy to stand up right now. So I'm going to sit here and drink my water and pretend I'm angry.
You do that, babe. Why did that give me butterflies? Do it again. Drink some more water.
No.
You're such a thirsty man. No, I'm really over here narrating to myself.
So what were you going to say back to the original conversation?
So we have explained ways to look for how somebody might be using something as escapism, right? And we've talked about warning signs, becoming avoidant, being angry at home and being different in public. How would you address those realizations and recognitions?
Before I answer that, do you think that my dopamine response in spending money is a form of escapism? Because I am using the means at my disposal to create a fake dopamine. It's a real dopamine response, but I'm creating a temporary sense of happiness versus working through whatever I'm working through.
Yes, I do think it's a form of escapism because you just said that you're going to find something to distract yourself and focus on. And 9 times out of 10, it's things that you want to buy.
Right. Okay, so what if I don't buy it? Is that still escapism? Because I said 7 hours. It was probably like 6.5. But I did spend my entire morning looking at S-Class Mercedes.
Yeah.
Doing research between the 500 and the 580 and looking at price differences and going as far as to find dealerships within 100 miles of us to see who has one in stock. And I was going hard looking through all of that because it's a dream car. That's one of those things that like I've always fucking wanted. And if I can get one for 100,000 subscribers, it's like a pat on my back for all of my hard work. I would love to do that.
Right.
But at this point, I don't even know if I'm going to do that anymore. But I did spend that time on the computer doing research. I saw that as like, I'm fact finding. I want to make sure that I know everything I need to know before making a decision. It's a big expense. It's a house payment.
It is. So I still think it's a form of escapism. Even without spending the money, you're doing it to distract yourself from what's going on in your mind. And I don't think that's a negative form of escapism. I think that is definitely a way that you're able to reel yourself back in.
So then where does it become a problem?
When it starts impeding on your life and you're not being an adult anymore. When you are neglecting family responsibilities. If you are going to work, coming home, doing your hobby, going to bed, eating, and going to the bathroom, you're living your life in an escapism.
So, right. But where does that line get crossed? Because this falls under the hobby thing.
When you're neglecting your adult responsibilities. So if you're in a relationship and you're living with somebody, and in the beginning of that relationship, you help with things and it was a 50-50 workload, and then you start getting into the video games and you are no longer helping in the household and everything is falling on that single person to make the home habitable, that is when it becomes escapism. It's just a hobby, but you're sitting there playing for 6 or 8 hours and neglecting everything else in your life just to get that dopamine response that you're wanting to get because you're miserable.
How many people do you think get into their hobbies and neglect their family and neglect the house and do all of that shit knowing that they can because the other person's going to take care of it and know that if they didn't have the other person, they could do it all the time? Because I got to be honest, I think that people enable that mindset.
I do believe that people can enable that mindset, definitely. If you just gripe and complain that this is what they do, yet you still pick up after them, why would they ever change? And if it boils down to they haven't cleaned up their messes in the month and they have moldy plates and shit sitting everywhere and they don't want to be adults and do their laundry, then that needs to be said, okay, look, this is the expectation. You have 1 week to get your shit together. You're going to have to start looking for somewhere else to live.
Okay, so I guess this kind of ties into your question and how you would deal with it. In the event that you had somebody who was using escapism to escape the reality of their life and their partner was the one that was miserable because of the escapism, we'll use video games. Him or her plays and the other person nags and complains and bitches about it all the time. You're playing Call of Duty again. You're going to ever fucking spend time with me? And like they're being shitty about it. It's not going to make the person that's using whatever it is as an escapism to be around those people. They want to get away from that.
Right.
Which is why they're already doing that. So that behavior in response to the escapism is not going to be conducive to change.
I would say that continues to enable the escapism. Yeah.
Right. I would say it enforces it.
Yeah.
Because you're the person already has a negativity bias in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hop on here and start shooting motherfuckers on Xbox and like doing my thing, and I'm gonna have some fun with my friends. Right. Because all she's gonna do is nag. Yeah. Our intimacy isn't there. We're not going to watch TV together. And if we do, she's going to be on her phone the whole fucking time or bitching at me.
So we're going to watch whatever she wants to watch.
Right. So how does that, man, this is not how I plan on this conversation to go either, but holy shit, is this a good one.
Yeah.
How does that get resolved in a way that doesn't enforce that behavior's, how does that get resolved without reinforcing the mindset behind the behavior?
So I would have a heart-to-heart. I would sit down and I would say, look, I know that I've been really hard on you about you, for example, playing video games. Like, I know I've really been on your ass about it and I've been super bitchy. And I'm recognizing that you're doing this because you're not happy. And I need to know if that's something that I've contributed to.
You know that. Okay.
In asking that question, you need to be prepared for the answer from them that could be more than likely, yes, you are the main factor that I'm not happy at home.
Do you think that most people would be honest about that? I think that people who use escapism to that degree are non-confrontational. Or they just don't have it in them to fight anymore. Like, at that point, would you really be like, yeah, you're the fucking problem? And then have to have that fight when you're already trying to get away from them?
I think they might start defending themselves. Or they might not take the conversation seriously, or they might get defensive. You know, they could already be just prepared for a battle every time you walk into the bedroom.
Could be.
So if they start getting super shitty or snappy or be like, you always do this, be like, no, babe, like I really need you to hear me. I recognize that you are unhappy in life, and I need to know what I can do to make this better for you. And in saying that, in turn, your life is going to get better because you are acknowledging that they are going through something and you're no longer going to sweep it under the rug.
We are using video games as our main topic point because that is the most prevalent in terms of emails, but this really does go into any type of hobby or addiction that you have.
It really does.
So in the same breath, there are people who just genuinely enjoy playing video games that are not using it for escapism. That is when they have the most fun in their life.
Right. So we know people in our life who are very avid gamers, who go to work, make sure all their bills are paid, their houses are clean, their pets are taken care of, whoever they're in the relationship with, they feel loved. It is I've gotten everything done in the day. It's 5:30, dinner's not done yet. I have an hour and a half to play.
Yeah, when I was gaming with my friends still, because we had like, I don't know, 8 of us that all built gaming PCs at the same time, and we used to play Rainbow Six and shit together. We had dedicated times. We were on the game by 8, 9 o'clock at night. It was after the kids went to bed. Dinner had been had. Quality time with the person had been had. And we would play games until we were ready for bed. And it wasn't every night. It was 3 or 4 nights a week. But again, it was at the end of the day. So like for us, that would be difficult for me. Because I know that if I'm up till midnight playing video games, you're on the couch waiting to go to bed. I can't do that to you. So for me to be in that situation, I don't think that I could play video games anymore at night like that, knowing that you'd be waiting for me to go to bed because we go to bed together. We've had one time ever where we've not gone to bed together. And it was because I had shit to do still and you were sleeping on the couch. So I'm like, babe, go to bed.
Yeah, it was like 12:30.
I still had like 2 more hours of work to do.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't like beg, but I was like, you got to pass. Like, I'm not going to get mad about it. Like, just go to bed. There's no reason for you to be sleeping on the couch. I have so much shit to do still.
And I actually laid on the couch. So my body, when my body is overly tired, I get like restless leg all over. So that's when I know I need to go and lay down, because if I don't, that feeling in my skin's going to start to make me panic. If it weren't for that, I would have stayed in the living room until you were done. Yeah.
But I don't think that I could allow that. And even if I did allow that for me to play video games that late at night again, or to take on a hobby that requires me to do it 8 or 9 o'clock, I would only get an hour or 2 tops. And then I'd have to shut that off, because when you're ready for bed, I'm going to bed with you. Like that's something, that's how we keep our intimacy alive. I also feel like that time that we lay down before we watch TV is cuddle time. You lay on my chest every night. It allows us to have playtime if that's what we want to do. It allows us to have stupid conversation if that's where the night goes, because sometimes that happens. That downtime is truly us time. We have the TV on, but we're not really paying attention to it. Most of the time, our phones are on a nightstand. Like it is one-on-one time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to lose that for a video game. That means more to me than playing video games with my friends or drinking or doing photography or whatever the case may be. If once a year, if I was super into photography and you weren't, and you didn't want to be outside and you didn't want to do the things that I wanted to do, and once a year I wanted to go do astrophotography, and I had to go to the Everglades and get away from the light pollution to do it, and I was up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't expect you to go. But I also wouldn't do that all the fucking time because that would interrupt our routine.
Right.
I think that would be something that I would look for. If you started going to bed without me and not saying shit, I would know something's not right with us. Side railed. We went way off topic again. It's kind of on topic, but it was off topic.
Okay.
You asked me ways that you would address that from like when it started happening. I got to be honest, in my standpoint, it would be a me problem. I wouldn't put it on the person that's using the escapism because I already know something's not right.
Right.
So you asked, and I'm paraphrasing because you asked it very specifically, but the gist of it was, how would I address that situation when it started, right? That was your question?
I don't remember.
Okay, I think that's what your question was, so I'm going to answer that. I would hit you with, hey, I noticed that you've been doing your plant thing 6, 7, 8 hours a day outside, and we aren't spending a whole lot of time together, and I know that I must have done something to make you not want to be around me. Has my attitude shifted? Have I been a dick lately? Did I say something to offend you that you're working through? Like, what happened to make you not want to be in the house with me and be outside all the time? Is it just nice outside? Like, I need to know where the disconnect is, because if I did something, I need to fix it. I wouldn't ask you if you were mad at me.
Right.
I would ask you what the problem was and how I can correct the problem, because then we're discussing the issue at hand and not the emotional vulnerability in between it. I feel like, because the way that you had said, the way you had addressed the video game thing was, are you mad at me? Or
I don't think I said, are you mad at me?
No, you didn't. But it was
something along the lines of, I can tell you're unhappy and I need to know if I've done something to contribute to that, or what I can do to pull you out of what you're going through, or what I can do to make you happier in life.
Right. And I had made that comment about people being non-confrontational. So however you worded it, it made me think of non-confrontational people and them not actually saying anything to you about it. So I think that in that scenario, the best way to do it is to address the issue and not the person, because it's the two of you versus the problem. And when you address the problem and not the person, it removes them from that, and you guys can have a discussion about what the actual issue is. So is it that, and if it's a me thing and you're mad at me and I'm able to pick me apart, you are more likely to get on board with it because you realize that I'm not trying to attack you. Does that make sense? So like if
So I don't feel like you've told me what you would say. You just said that you wouldn't say what I said.
I did tell you what I would say.
What would you say?
I would make it. Why did you lean in? Did you feel like you needed to get louder on the microphone?
I just don't understand what's happening. You said you would make it about you.
Right.
But what would you say to make it about you? Because he said it's you two against the problem.
Right.
But you didn't
I
give
did,
what
though,
you would say.
before that. Before I even went back to the question, I'd already answered that. In this scenario where, let's say you were doing the plant thing all day long, and I would approach you and I'd be like, look, I noticed that you're doing the plant thing all day.
Right.
I need to know if I did something that makes you not want to be around me.
Okay.
Have I had you know what the problem is. You know if you've been a dick to somebody.
Right.
So assuming that I've been an asshole for a week and you just don't want to fucking be around me anymore because I've been an asshole. I've been short with you or whatever the case is. I fucking know I've been short. I know I'm going through it. I know what my problems are. People do that shit because they want to engage. The real answer to that is, hey, I'm sorry I've been an asshole for the last 2 weeks. I've been going through it. Here's why I've been going through it. And you have the discussion. People aren't emotionally mature enough to just come out there and take accountability. If they were, we wouldn't have a podcast. We would have no reason to do this because everyone would know how to communicate. The coy way to do that would be to walk outside and go, hey, I know that you've been out here 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. I feel like I've done something to you. I know that I can be short-tempered. I know that I have an attitude problem sometimes. I know that I leave my soda cans next to the sink. I feel like I've done something to push you away from me, and I would like to correct what that problem is. So whatever I did to make you feel like you're feeling right now, I would like to know so that I can start correcting that issue. Because at that point, it's not you're mad at me, or you know what I mean? Like I'm taking full accountability that I'm the problem right now, and that's it. It's not about how you feel about me. It's me being the problem and how we fix the problem. Does that make sense? I'm guessing not, because you're staring off into space.
Well, because what I said was, I recognize you're going through it, and if I contributed to that, I need to know what I did. So I don't. Is yours more specific? I don't understand how they're different.
I don't think that that's what you said the first time. But I can't just rewind our conversation to play it. I'm almost positive that's not what you said the first time.
I said, okay.
When I play it back, I'll know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you did, because otherwise I wouldn't have felt the way that I felt about the conversation we were having. Mm-hmm. So, and if you did say it that way and I took it differently, that's more of a reason to have these conversations.
Okay. So say they have the conversation and things come to light and they recognize that one of them is using something as an escape. Would you say the next step would be to plan out designated times?
Do I think that it would be, say that again?
So once that conversation is had and whatever comes to light, and they realize that one of them is using an escape, would you say that the next move would be to like set out a schedule for when they can do their hobby and then working on whatever needs to be worked on within the relationship? That way they don't feel the need to have an escape.
Yes, D, all of the above. I gotta be honest, the first part of that should be set up anyways. If you have a hobby, you should dedicate time to your hobby, and it should be a specific time dedicated to your hobby, especially if it's something like video games, or if you want to have a glass of whiskey and smoke a cigar every night on the porch. It should be done at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever time you have. You should designate it's self-care. And that's how I view hobbies. Excuse me, man, that sort of really got me.
Yeah, I can tell.
I think that I believe that those hobbies work as self-care, because you have time to get in your own head and like play with something or tinker or grow plants, listen to music, listen to an audiobook, smoke, whatever it is that you do. That is time for you to recharge your batteries without having to worry about the kids, without having to worry about your job. That shit's super healthy. And when you have it scheduled every day, no different than going to the gym, that's going to be super beneficial. It's also going to remove a lot of the ability for it to become escapism that consumes you.
Right.
Because I got to be honest, when you look at it like that, self-care is technically escapism, because you are doing the self-care to decompress and recharge your batteries and like feel good about yourself. So you're escaping your reality while getting your mani and pedi done, or you're smoking and fucking listening to your radio really loud while doing your plants. You are leaving the world that you have to focus and engage fully in your hobby. You are using your hobby as escapism, but it's on a very small scale, and it's healthy. Anything in excess can become a problem.
Right.
So yes, I think that it needs to be scheduled. First and foremost, it should be scheduled before it becomes a problem. I also think that it's good to have that other scheduled time outside of that. That is, we know that by most nights, by 8 o'clock, it's time for you and I to be on the couch together. You're laying down, your feet are on my lap. I'm playing my game because my game resets at 8. We're kind of watching TV. We're having conversations. Sometimes we're door dashing desserts. Like, we are decompressing from the day. Sometimes we'll talk about the day. Sometimes we'll talk about the women group. We'll talk about books. We'll talk about new desks, new camera gear. Sometimes we'll watch sermons. Like, that is our time. And at this point, it is so ingrained in us that by 7:30, 8 o'clock, you and I are on the couch. I'm not fucking around on the computer anymore, even though it's directly behind the couch now. Like, it's less than 6 feet from the couch. I measured it. It's like 5.5 feet. And I could be in the same room doing shit on the computer, and we could be having conversations and still be together.
Right.
But we don't have that intimate time together. bedtime is whenever we feel like going to bed. It's been later and later, which is nice because it gives me time to relax on the couch after working, and then still gives me more time in the bed to lay down and do shit. But if you were to come to me and go, hey, from now on, every night at 8 o'clock, I would like to turn off the living room light and I would like to watch one episode, 1 hour of whatever show we watch, and then spend 20 to 30 minutes having a conversation afterwards, you are now telling me that you want me to schedule time out of my day to make sure that we have that hour and a half of intimacy every single day, no matter what. That would allow me to go, okay, if I want to play video games, I need to do that shit before 8 o'clock, because at 8 o'clock, I got to be on that couch. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with having a routine.
So you're saying that you would prioritize that time with your person over the video games?
I would prioritize that person over everything else. Mm-hmm. I would prioritize that time first.
Yeah.
So like real shit, we all know we got to make money.
Right.
So like your job has to be a priority. Your job shouldn't come before your partner, but your job is part of your provision, right? And especially if both of you are working, if one person doesn't make enough money to support both people. So the job thing has to happen. And like if you're working nights and I'm working days, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. I would either go to the night shift if I had the ability to do so, or I would try to push for you to go to the day shift so that we have that extra time together at nighttime to do that. Because that's prioritizing your partner over your job. Right?
Right.
Okay, so like in that aspect, like I would know I have to work to pay bills, but if you're not getting enough time with me because I'm doing whatever it is that I'm doing and you bring that to me, it means that I'm falling short as a husband. Mm-hmm. So that prioritizing the schedule is a necessary thing to move forward. Because if I continue to play video games or I continue to drink or I continue to go out and I'm neglecting you and the kids, this isn't going to last. It's going to get to the point where you're going to be like, I know my worth. Mm-hmm. He obviously doesn't see it anymore. I'm going to find somebody who does. That's just the reality of things. And when you realize that people, you don't own your person. Mm-hmm. We don't believe in divorce, which is why we work so fucking hard to have what we have. And if you came to me and said that this is what you're doing and it's creating a problem for me or it's making me feel like this, I'm going to make a concerted effort to fix it. It may not be 100% all the time. There's going to be days that I forget that we had that conversation because I got so much other shit going on. But like you said earlier today to somebody, I'm really good with gentle reminders. It doesn't take much for you to be like, hey, you remember that conversation? Because if I go, nope, I don't, you can remind me. And if I do, and I'm like, shit, my bad. Like I'm just not there today. Like I can tell you, like I was distracted in the moment or whatever was going on. I'll try to do better. Those reminders are how you instill positive reinforcement in someone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that all of that schedule shit is super important. I got to be honest. If you have your work schedules figured out, everything else should be scheduled anyways.
Right.
Isn't that just time management? Isn't that how you time manage your day?
Yeah.
Do you do the same thing I do in terms of like knowing that we want to be on the couch together by 8 o'clock at night?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not like a made up thing to me. Like you actually feel that way too. We've never talked about that.
No,
it's just something we do.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, you fall asleep on the couch a lot.
I do. I'm so exhausted by the end of the day.
Right. And I'm not, because I don't need as much sleep as you do. So like if I feel that while we're laying down, I'll be like, all right, we got to go to bed. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if I'm done in that living room or not. I'll go lay down and continue to work on my phone or do whatever I got to do. I'll watch YouTube on the TV if I have to until I fall asleep. Because I think it's cruel to make you sleep on the couch while I'm wide the fuck awake knowing that we're supposed to be going to bed together, because that's been the unspoken rule this entire time. It's been spoken now because of the podcast, but before that it was just what we did.
Yeah.
I really think that in terms of relationships, the escapism on the grand scale becomes an issue when the other person feels neglected.
I agree.
Because the conversation is not about, I feel neglected. It's never, those conversations are never had from a calm, this is why I'm having a problem conversation. Mm-hmm. It's always, oh, you're drinking again.
Right.
Oh, you're going to go play video game with your friends. I hope you fucking lose. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's never I really miss you right now.
Yeah, it's a focus on the things that they fail to get done.
Right.
You haven't taken the trash out yet. You don't do the dishes. You haven't helped with the laundry. All you do is play your video games. You're right. It's never a conversation of, I miss having that time with you.
Do you think that it comes across that way because people want their person to choose better? Does that make sense?
Like, they think if they say it that way, they're going to be like, you're right, babe.
No, that is where I was going, but that's not what I meant. So like, prime example of that is I never asked you not to go to the bar. I wanted you to choose me over that life. And you did. Do you think it's that people want their partner to choose them over the video games? I shouldn't have to ask him to not play video games. He should want to spend time with me. Mm-hmm. Instead of going, hey, I really miss you.
Right.
Like, can we watch a movie tonight?
Because they don't want to be the one to initiate it. They want to feel wanted.
Right. How's that working out for you, though? Not
It's
you,
not.
but like, right. Like, that comes down to the being direct thing, right? If you want a date night and you've wanted a date night for 6 fucking months and you've never been like, hey, I really need a date night. How the fuck am I supposed to know that?
Right.
Because we have a routine and my quality time with you is on the couch from 8 until whenever we go to bed. The date nights are a bonus. And I do that because I want to take you out and show you off and make sure that you're living your life, not just existing with me. But if we got super run down and busy and it was 3 months without a date night and you really fucking needed a date, or I really needed a date, or if we really needed a vacation, if it's not verbalized, how the fuck are we supposed to know that?
Right. You would have never planned a trip to St. Augustine if I didn't say, hey, babe, I want to go to St. Augustine.
Right. And I did it the next day.
Yeah, you did.
Because I know you need it. And it's dope for me because I fucking need it too. Like, I obviously don't need it to the extent that you did because you asked for it.
I think that's the first time I've asked you for a trip out of town overnight. All the other times you've planned it.
Yeah. Yeah. You asked at the worst fucking time too.
Why?
Because this month is a shit show in terms of my scheduling. Like, it's happening. It's already paid for. We're fucking going to St. Augustine. But I had to buy a whole bunch of other shit to make sure that our interview gets done on the 9th with the therapist. Make sure that our live stream still happen.
Right. We both dropped the ball on forgetting that.
Yeah, we did. Adam is supposed to be doing, or A&R Accents is supposed to be doing the Whiskey Wall at some point this month. They're supposed to start, I think, on the 12th. We have a t-shirt drop on the 15th. Like, this month is a shit show. And I booked the appointment thinking that everything else was past the time that we get back, and I forgot about the interview. And I'm not canceling that fucking interview. I'm not like salty about it.
Right.
It's just one of those things that, like, after I booked the appointment, booked the hotel room, and I looked down at my watch and was like, oh shit, we're going to be gone.
Yeah.
We have 4 things that has to happen that weekend. Like, I don't know. I guess it's not really that big of a deal because we were able to make it work. We really were able to make that shit. Okay, well, this is what we need then.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, I need you to make sure that I can get somebody in Discord for a fucking phone interview. Like, but don't. Okay, so that's healthy, right? Because you need that fucking vacation. You told me what you needed, and I was able to make it work, and I was able to work our entire fucking life around going to St. Augustine for 4 days. So now I know that in the future, if we need to leave, all of those logistics for what we have to do while we're out of town is fucking figured out. I got the capture cards. I bought all the wiring I need. Well, except for 2. Anyways, I got all but 3 wires that I need, which will be here in a day because of Amazon. We figured out the logistics in terms of the interview. We figured out how we can go live. Like, we figured out a whole lot of shit within a 6-hour period because we booked that vacation. So in the future, if you're like, hey, I want to go, what are you doing?
I just realized that I never told Brandon that we're not going to be here next Sunday.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So as we're figuring out logistics,
Yeah.
I now know that in the event that we really need to just leave, as long as I have internet, I have everything that I need to take the show on the road so that we can continue to work when we have to do our lives while still enjoying our life. So even though that was a really bad time, like in terms of timing, it really fucking worked out because I was able to figure out a whole lot of shit in a short amount of time to make all of that work. It was really dope for me. Like that was a win in my opinion, because we would have missed the Patreon live.
Right.
We would have missed the Saturday night. We would have missed the interview, the Patreon, the Thursday night live, and the Sunday night live read had we not figured all of that out. And though we could have done that, we very much could have been like, hey, we're not going to do these this weekend. We're taking a weekend off, guys. And everybody would be like, yeah, recharge. No big deal. Like, they'd have been fine with it. We can still recharge. It doesn't take shit to do a live stream. It's a couple hours of conversation. The interview is something we look forward to. Like, all of that shit is the easy part of what we're doing. It's not the work aspect. The work is all back end shit.
Right.
So, I don't know. I see that as a win.
Me too.
All of that logistics, the laptop, the capture cards, trying to figure out the lav mics and how we were going to microphone everything. Like, all of that was a concern for about 6 hours. But we nailed all of it.
Is there anything else you want to touch on in this conversation?
I think the drinking addiction and the video game addiction and all of the shit that leads to the escapism aspect of all of this stems from an issue with your partner, and it's something that you haven't worked through. Or it could start with something that you just enjoy doing, and it becomes just part of your daily routine because you enjoy doing it so much. But there was a time that you enjoyed spending that 3 to 4 hours with your partner.
Right.
What happened? What changed?
Yep.
I really believe that's what the issue is. And when you can come to the root of the issue, you can figure that shit out. And if you need to play video games that much to keep your fucking life occupied, then do you really need to be in a relationship? Because like you are supplementing the free time that you have in your life with an electronic device. You're not actually spending it with another person. Do you think that you would get lonely not having another person in the house? I mean, I don't know.
I would get lonely if you weren't in the house.
I don't know. You know, you can. I don't know. I guess you would get lonely even if you were just doing your plant thing all the time and I wasn't around. You would start to miss me eventually.
Definitely.
But if we go ahead,
I leave the house for 6 hours and I text you and I say I miss you.
Right. But that. Do you think that it would feel that way? Do you think you would feel that way if we weren't getting along?
No.
Because you'd be using that time away from me to escape me.
Oh, yeah.
To recharge your batteries so that you could come home and fucking deal with me.
I would stay out as late as I could without it causing issues.
Because we are not right.
Right.
That's the answer to the escapism thing. People who use that time to really truly get away from their person, it's because them and their person are not on the same fucking level anymore. And a lot of that comes down to simple conversations that aren't being had. People are feeling hurt and not able to articulate what the actual problem is, and they're throwing shade at each other. If you're not going to talk to your person and figure out what the root of the issue is and solve the fucking issue and just throw shade at each other, what's the point in even having the conversation? Because it's not going to get resolved. All you're doing is arguing.
Right.
It's not going to make your person want to come out of those video games. It's going to drive them to it. It's going to drive them to that bottle. It's going to drive them to the bar. It's going to drive them to go ride their motorcycle for 8 fucking hours while you sit at home with the kids.
So I'm covering something right now and Never Split the Difference, which we are going to be covering next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys are going to miss this, but it's going to be happening continuously on Wednesdays.
But you can go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yes.
There will be a playlist for it.
So there is something in that book that he calls labeling, and that is pointing out the root of the emotion. The faster that you can find what the issue is and label it, the quicker you will get to intimacy. Is
that going to be on this episode this Wednesday?
Yes, this upcoming Wednesday.
Well, I mean, shit, if that's the case, there's nothing really more we need to say here because that's going to be a whole topic for another episode. He calls it labeling, huh?
Correct. There's a lot of things. I'm on a whole deep dive right now because he said neural resonance. And I have like 7 or 8 points talking on that, like really breaking down what that means.
Okay. I feel like there's a lot that comes. Apparently, we just have to wait for that episode because I don't want to get into that now, knowing that we have an episode coming out that we're going to talk specifically on that because I don't want to know. I already know. I read the book. I've read the book like years ago. But you're doing something different with the book than I read it. I read that book to learn how to talk to people in business meetings. You're reading it to negotiate relationship shit. So
correct.
I don't want to ruin that for me.
Yeah, because it's a new filter for you.
It is a new take, and it changes my perspective on the way that those conversations go. So I don't want to ruin that.
Okay.
I will say on my original point that if you can figure out what the issue is in terms of I play video games all the time because it makes me happy and all she does is nag. Or, I spend all of my free time at Hobby Lobby and Starbucks walking around because I know if I go home, he's going to be a dick to me. The issue is that he's a dick. Okay, so why is he a dick? Why is she complaining all the time? Like, there's got to be something that's not being met in the relationship that's making them act like that. What's the fucking problem?
Right.
It's not the video games. It's not. They didn't have a problem with it when you first started playing. They have a problem with it now because maybe the emotional needs aren't being met. Maybe they feel like you're a shitty father. Maybe they feel like you're fucking an absent woman. Maybe they feel like when you go to Hobby Lobby, you're out with another guy cheating and you're coming back with Starbucks just to be like, look, I went to Starbucks and walked around Hobby Lobby. Like, there's an underlying issue there.
Are you giving your phone more attention than you're giving him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a whole lot of things. What's the point of us sitting on the couch together if all we're doing is scrolling TikTok?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not really watching TV. We're playing our game. I could be playing my game and you could be playing on your phone. What's the point? Like, those are conversations that need to be had.
Another one could be, what's the point of me giving you attention when you get more excited about it from Instagram?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think, ooh, man. I hate everything I'm about to say.
Okay.
I can taste bile in the back of my throat.
Say it.
How do you think a I hate the word influencer, and I hate that we're labeled as such.
Me too.
Okay. Oh, man. If you had this podcast and your TikTok success and I did not, how hard do you think it would be for me watching your success on all of the shit that you're doing and all of the attention you're getting while I'm not prevalent in that world?
I think you would hold some resentment towards me because this is your dream.
Right.
I would never do this without you.
Well, I wouldn't, this wouldn't work without the two of us.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have a podcast. I would have, honestly, my TikTok would have never taken off the way it did if it weren't for what we have.
Right. I agree.
So
mine either.
Even if my TikTok did take off and I wouldn't put much time or energy into it. I would use it for fun and say stupid shit.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about doing other things. You've talked about doing the murder mystery thing for Patreon only. I've talked about doing unboxing shit because the amount of stuff I buy and like doing gear reviews and stuff because I enjoy that. I spend a lot of fucking money on Amazon. And for me to do an overhead camera and open shit and like talk about the quality and how I use it and like give reviews on it would do well because I buy a lot of shit. I could cover a whole lot of bases. And that would be fun for me. I would enjoy that.
And, you know, we have a lot of photographers who follow us. So.
Yep. I want to try to interview a photographer.
Okay.
I don't know who yet, but I would really like to, like a successful one. And not just a YouTuber, like somebody that actually does it for a living that kind of has a YouTube presence because they're too busy taking pictures to dedicate their time to the YouTube. That's what I want to have a conversation about. My question was though, so let's say the roles were reversed. Let's say that I'm living my YouTube dream and I'm having the TikTok success that I have at almost 1 million followers and you have a TikTok with like 1,000 people on it and you only use it to scroll TikTok. You're not really making videos. You're just the average person that's using social media to use social media. And I'm doing the influencer thing and I have to spend hours every day in front of a camera and hours editing and doing TikToks and trying on clothes or whatever it is that the fucking influencers do. I know that our influencer thing is not like everyone else's.
Right.
But like the Instagram models, like the Instagram women influencers who are doing dances and fucking talking shit about other people and doing all of that. How do you think that would affect a non-social media person in their relationship? There's got to be a form of detachment from that person after a while because all of their focus and attention is going to the internet.
Right. If we weren't doing this together and this was solely a you thing, I don't know how it would work. Already with the presence that we have on social media and the following that we have, I'm uncomfortable. You know, I'm just along for this ride.
Yeah.
This is 100%. I'm on board because it's a you dream and I want to see you be happy. You know, and of course we're helping people and I love doing that. And I love that we are helping people achieve the best version of themselves and they're really starting to live their happiest lives.
Yeah.
If you were doing this on your own and I had no hand in it, this is quality time for me.
Right.
You know, sitting down, this is satiating my love tank. So if we didn't have this time and I only got you for 2 or 3 hours at night, that wouldn't be enough for me.
That's a hell of a statement.
What?
Our podcast conversations are satiating your love tank.
Yeah.
How fucking dope is that? That we get to do something as a job
right.
that is fulfilling our quality time needs.
Yeah.
That's insane to think about. Like,
it really is insane.
I'm paused for effect. Like there really is a lot to fucking digest there. So with what you just said, if you were not a part of this and I was doing this and the only quality time that you got with me was at 8:00 at night for an hour before bed, it would destroy our relationship.
Yeah.
Because your quality time love meter would never get filled.
Correct. You know, I do have my time by myself. Like I said the other day, I spent 4 or 5 hours doing my plant stuff. That was one day out of the week. You know, if it was regularly day after day after day, and I only get you to myself on Sundays, That's not enough for me. That would eventually drive a wedge between us, yeah.
So for everybody that's listening to our podcast that is using some sort of escapism in their life, your partner probably feels that way, which is why they complain about your hobbies. Mm-hmm. It's why they complain about you not being at home. It's the reason that they complain about you not being present. It could also be why they're complaining about simple things like which dish rag you're using. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like there's a real underlying issue in what's going on, and it's not the superficial criticisms that's on the top. It is a bigger issue underneath that is now stacked on top of a whole bunch of other shit, and they're just throwing it at you.
Yeah, the nitpicking comes from everything else being ignored, so they're now really finding fault in everything that you do because you've never corrected what was wrong in the first place. Right.
I love that this fills your quality time meter. It does for me too.
Yeah.
Because I don't see this, and I said this to might have been on Instagram. Hey, if you don't follow us on Instagram, To Be Better Podcast on Instagram, you should follow us on Instagram. I don't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, somebody said on TikTok, on Instagram that you guys are going to record while you're on vacation. You're going to work on vacation. Why don't you take the downtime? Because this isn't the work aspect. Mm-hmm. This is the quality time aspect where we just have conversations.
Right.
And days like yesterday, when I really didn't want to fucking do this, we didn't record yesterday. Mm-hmm. And today we had to record anyway. So when I was like, I really just want to take a fucking day off tomorrow, and we need to record to get it out of the way so we're not going into the week behind. You're like, we have a live tomorrow night. I'm like, fuck. And you're like, let's not do anything today. And then tomorrow we can record this episode and do the live and we'll be done. You right. Mm-hmm. And I sat on the couch and didn't fucking get up yesterday. Like I took a down day yesterday. I edited episode 27 and was done by like 12:30. And I didn't do fucking anything related to any of this other than research on how to make things work outside of the house and set up my laptop. Mm-hmm. I set up my laptop, which is technically work, but it was fun too because tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the work aspect of things for me is not the sitting down and recording. It's the reading and the taking notes and the research.
And TikTok.
Because
TikTok absolutely feels like a fucking job.
Yeah, it does.
I am so grateful for everything that I've gotten from that app. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely loathe that app. In the last 6 months, I've hit my FYP maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 times. I'll look at the people I follow.
Mm-hmm. I do that too.
But I don't scroll. I'll get on, clear my notifications, and look at like the first 3 videos. And if there's nothing there, I just close the app. I'd rather watch YouTube videos and like learn something versus watching little blurbs.
Right.
I will say that I've not gotten nowhere near as much news since I stopped using my TikTok because I don't watch politics really on mainstream media because it's all bullshit. But I do get quality news from TikTok. And when I see something I haven't heard, I can go research it versus having the news media outlets here forcing bullshit down my throat.
Right.
It's all lies. Fucking propaganda machine. Yep. You want to call it? We have an hour before the live stream and I would like to eat something.
Okay. You feel like that was productive conversation?
I mean, I enjoyed myself. So even if it wasn't, fuck it. It is what it is.
Okay.
I had fun.
Good.
You want to leave the people with something positive? I know you're on the spot now. We still have to record that Patreon clip.
Oh my God, something positive?
You want me to hit him with something positive?
The only thing I can think of something positive might be like a self-revelation for them and create an inner dialogue they're not ready for.
Oh. Save that for the vlog.
Okay.
Guys, you are the author of your own life. That's what it comes down to. If you want something in life, you got to get up and fucking get it. Nobody's going to give it to you.
Why am I over here thinking at the end of the day, all decisions you make are your own?
Yeah.
So no matter what gets done in the day, you chose to get all of that done.
Yep.
Or you chose to do nothing.
I want to like come up with a sign-off phrase that's the same thing every time, but I have to write it and then I have to memorize it because that would be pretty dope.
That would be pretty dope.
It'd be like my this Chris Burkett signing off.
Now I'm going to have a sign off.
Well, how about you just write one and I don't have to do it then? Because I don't need a sign off. I just wanted the podcast to end with something positive every time.
Okay. I'll figure something out.
You're the real MVP, babe.
All of you guys being here is absolutely the bee's knees. And when you think about it, you really are the pollinators of the podcast.
Oh, shit. Okay. That was cheesy. All the cheese. That was good, though.
That was good. And I just thought of it.
I got nothing else to say on that one.
Bye, guys.